begin.
What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NBA Wise Stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I, of course, am from the WiseTake Nation, which you can find on all the social media platforms listed above. We are a premium DFS content provider as well as a DFS community designed to help make you a better DFS player. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell so you're notified whenever we do go live. You don't want to miss out on any of the free content we do. We do a lot of free content on this channel. So subscribe, hit the notifications bell, come along for the ride as we begin our voyage, as we continue our voyage into DFS dominance. If you're really looking to take your game to the next level, you know the drill. Go check us out at WiseTake.com. Get the good shit. But in the meantime, we're going to rock out with this show. First hour going to be with me and our projections, going game by game, discussing some of the things that have changed, waiting for news. And then, of course, in hour two, we will bring on Paulie D, and we'll talk some game theory, find out where he's heading, where his head's at, kind of compare up and answer questions and all that. But the most important thing about the second half of the show is that we're providing you with the necessary injury information. We get late news all the time. We have a bunch of people that are questionable. We're starting to get some of the news, but there's still more to go, and we want to be able to react accordingly and explain to you how we plan on reacting accordingly so that you understand the thought process, right? It's all about teaching you how to play the game, teaching you to become better at this wonderful world of DFS, and it helps makes us better too. I'm not saying that we don't learn as well, because we absolutely do. Real quick, if you haven't already, please hit that like button. The likes go a long way. The likes really help us out. The likes allow us to continue to do free content. So the more you hit the like button, the more we'll be able to do free content. And we like doing it. We like talking to everybody. We like hanging out with you guys and doing dirty to neighbors, right? So hit the like button. It goes a long way. It helps us out and all that good shit. Joe K in the chat says, "What up, nation?" That's what I'm talking about. Love it. What up, nation? Indeed. What's up, Joe? Do dirties tonight. I'm feeling good about tonight's slate. There's a lot up in the air. I've made a couple of changes to my process regarding what optimizer I'm using, all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited. It's a little scary when you have money up on the line. You have 170 teams or so that you plan on building, but I'm up for the challenge. I'm excited. And at the end of the day, our projections are what's going to do the work for us. So I have every bit of confidence in them. I use them myself, and we're going to go ahead and get rolling. Just to be clear, if you are a member at WiseTake.com, or if you go sign up, the projections, these are the numbers, the actual projections themselves. It doesn't look like this. This is just a visual I made in order to do this show and give you guys something to look at and follow along. But the actual projections themselves are what you could download from WiseTake.com and upload into whatever optimizer you use, or maybe you just want to look yourself and kind of see who's just grading out point per dollar wise while you build teams by hand. Speaking of hand-built teams, we do have the cheat sheet. The cheat sheet has been updated to basically pull the highest point per dollar players in each tier at each position. So spend ups, mid tiers, values, there's a pricing criteria, and whenever we make changes to the projections, it automatically adjusts to the cheat sheet to rank the best point per dollar plays in each position in each tier. Awesome tool to kind of help you guys, especially those of you who are building teams by hand. It's worth looking at in general. So, that's how it is. What up, Juice? Welcome back, bro. All right, with that said, I think it's about time. We go ahead and get in it. Just a reminder, my wife and I recently adopted a puppy. He's like a lab hound mix, something like that. So he's going to be a big boy. But if you hear him moaning or crying, whatever the case is, I'm just keeping it here with me, because if I shut him out the office, I will not hear the end of him. And my wife ain't home from work yet, so this is how we're doing it. You may have to, if I pause or whatever, it's because he's trying to eat my desk or some shit, and I can't let that go down. So, proud puppy owner, but at the same time, obviously a lot of work. With that said, let's go ahead and get things rolling. We got our first game, which is the New York Knicks visiting the Charlotte Hornets. We have a 207.5 total. Obviously, very, very low. Lowest on the board by far. The next lowest would be the Philly game at 217. That gives you an idea at how slow of a pace both of these teams play, especially Charlotte, who's like the slowest team in the league. The Knicks are currently 1.5-point favorites, and the line hasn't really moved, despite the fact that we did hear Malik Monk is apparently suspended indefinitely for violating the anti-drug policy. Well, I wonder if he just smoked a joint or something. I don't know if that still would get you in trouble in the NBA. But anyway, we'll start with the New York Knicks side. So nothing much has changed here. Elfrid Payton, I believe, is probable. We're all expecting him to play. The pricing of these guys is just not that enticing. Julius Randle remains the one that I'm kind of maybe I do want some of, just because of the spot. Charlotte's gotten blown up by bigs, power forwards, and centers. And Randle is the most active big who's going to play the most minutes. Mitch Robinson is in that category. I don't mind taking a shot on him in tournaments. However, it's hard to really project him for any significant minutes because of his foul trouble issues. Frank Nitti is out, so DSJ should come off the bench. I think RJ Barrett, his minutes should be somewhat solidified in the 30s. Remember earlier in the season they were playing him just ridiculous minutes, but he did get an injury. And since then, they've seemed a little reluctant to play him too much over 30. So because of where things are, they're fine tournament plays. This game could go to overtime. He's got a very close spread. That could really help you out and help guys hit value. But in the meantime, just kind of looking at it bare, there's really not much I want from the Knicks side. It's the pricing in combination with the matchup, and the pace doesn't really match up for me. So not a ton I'm into on the Knicks. Don't mind if you want to take a shot on guys like Elf Payton and Randle just for the purposes of low ownership. But, it is what it is. On the Charlotte side, we did hear that I mentioned Monk is out. I would expect Jalen McDaniels and Cody Martin. I may have to make an adjustment here for Caleb Martin. It looks like I haven't given him any minutes yet. That's something that I'm probably going to want to do before lock just to make sure we have it adjusted. But the most important thing is I wanted to make sure Malik Monk was out so he wasn't popping in anybody's teams. But, there's going to be some value here. I'm cool going back to, where is he? Cody Martin. I thought he did fairly well. We have a lot of value today, so it's not necessarily my favorite. We can go back to Terry Rozier, who busted pretty hard yesterday. We can give Devonte Graham a shot, who rested yesterday. They're both very softly priced, especially on FanDuel. So I'm okay with it. The pace of the game's not great, but these are two teams that just aren't good. So I'm not going to go crazy getting exposure to all these different guys, but at the same time, I respect the fact that there is going to be some value here. I think Miles Bridges is the one I'm most likely to get exposure to, any sort of significant level. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and make a quick update here. I'm going to make a quick update right in front of you guys. Let me see. I like doing this sometimes, you know. Let's see. So we're looking at Charlotte. Let's go to my team edits tab. And we're going to do a mass edit for this team. Devonte Graham, 35 minutes. Miles Bridges, again, I like to over-project his minutes because I think he's been playing like a different kind of player, if that makes sense. Rozier is the one where I have somewhat of a disconnect, but I don't mind going back to him. It's funny because I was interested in Malik Monk before. Just thinking people may be reluctant to go back. So this actually, but I guess I could use the same strategy for a guy like Terry Rozier, especially with all the other options we have on the slate. I'm sure he'll be somewhat owned. People do react to injuries, and that's what you have to do in this wonderful, wonderful sport, if you will. What do you want to call it? A game of DFS? And we'll see if they made any changes. So now we got, it's updating now, so we'll go over it. So now we've got Caleb Martin for around 18 minutes. Doesn't really do much for him. Jalen McDaniels, I've got it at 19. I could probably raise him up, but it's not going to do much. It's really Cody Martin, I think, that gets the significant boost here. And he would be the only one I really wanted anyway, outside of Rozier and Graham. And Miles Bridges, of course. So that's where we're at. Cody Zeller is now projecting for 6x. That makes me, I'm going to lower this a little bit. Because, again, his minutes are just kind of hard to project. Looking at, he played 24 last night in a tough matchup, so he's not a bad option. I don't mind him. The minutes are just kind of hard to really get behind. But with the update we just made, knock him down from, I had him at 23.75, knocked him down to 23, and still 5.87 next. I feel comfortable with that projection. Let's go on to the next game. We've got the Philadelphia 76ers visiting the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I talked on the early look show that we did earlier about the 76ers. Something's going to win out here. The Sixers are awful on the road. However, Cleveland is terrible. So something's got to win out. Something's got to win out. Ben Simmons is out indefinitely. We know that. So there's a natural boost for Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, maybe even Al Horford. I'm still not comfortable really going to Horford. I'm fine with Tobias Harris. It's just a pricing issue. I'm good with Joel Embiid, especially with Drummond out. Cleveland, before Drummond got there, I haven't even really checked since Drummond's been there. Not that it matters. Drummond's only playing 22 to 24 minutes a game. But before Drummond got there, they were just amongst the worst against big. So I'm cool with Joel Embiid. I didn't want to project him too aggressively minutes wise because he just doesn't play as many minutes as he used to. But we do have to take into account that his usage should be higher with Ben Simmons out. He should be asked to do a little bit more. So I think I am going to give him a little bit of a boost somewhere just to kind of reflect that usage into his minutes. So even though I don't necessarily think he's going to play, 34, 35 minutes, I think that the value of those minutes are going to be a little higher, if that makes sense. I could do a manual boost. We can do it another way. It's just a quick way to kind of do it. And you can see here, even with almost a 35-minute projection, he still has a ways to go because of the way it's been on the season. There's no doubt that all these players together are kind of impacting it. But nothing I want to go crazy with. I'm cool with Jay Rich. Josh Richardson, his price has come up a little bit, but he still projects well. Horford's the one that I'm just like, I don't know what to do with. He just, if Embiid was out, I would love Horford. But even though Simmons is out, Horford just doesn't seem to do much with Embiid on the court, or Embiid around, I should say. So a little reluctancy there. On the Cleveland side, so we know that Drummond is out. Tristan Thompson has just been announced as the starter. I think that's what we all expected. And it seems fine. My issue is that even before Drummond got there, they were being weird with Tristan Thompson and playing Nance over him a lot, splitting the minutes. So I'm not sold that he's going to get a full starter's run. There's not a ton that I like. I think Kevin Porter Jr. is interesting. With the injury, he could pick up a few minutes. They had mentioned before, like right after the break, that they wanted to rely on him more to run the offense and shoot and score. And then he got 5 fouls in the next game, got kicked out of the game. And then right after that, he only played 13 minutes again. I don't know if it was a punishment. But of course, in that overtime game against Miami, he went out and balled out. So I'm good with it. Kevin Love, assuming he plays, I'm actually fine with as well. Remember that their last game went to overtime, so just take their minutes that they played last game with a grain of salt. There's not a ton that I like from this side, but I will say that the projections aren't bad. Like they don't actually project well, given that Drummond is out, and there's some flexibility around here. So nothing I'm crazy excited about, but I think there is maybe some opportunity. I don't mind taking a shot on Thompson. I'm just wanted you guys to understand that before Drummond got there, they were already kind of fucking with his minutes and playing Nance over him. That's just the truth. Pop in the chat, say hello. Juice, what up, bro? Appreciate it. I'll show the dog on my Twitter, man, because I don't feel like moving the screen and all that. He's finally sleeping. If y'all saw the early show, he was a pain in my ass, man. He started biting on my desk when I was trying to talk to y'all. He started he got 5 toys, all 5 toys I brought into the room with him, and it's been my fault, but. I shouldn't have brought it, but he picked a squeaky toy, of course, and he's been sitting there squeaking on a squeaky toy. So I'll show the dog on my Twitter at CK_013. I'll post some pictures and all that shit, but I'm not gonna show him on the show right now. You'll probably hear him at some point. He's sleeping right now, but he's just waiting for the right opportunity to come up on here and make his presence. I know it. Crying for his mommy. That's what he's doing right now. Real quick, guys, hit that like button. Really helps us out. Only 7 likes. We could do better than that. I'm gonna be preaching that throughout the show. So do the dirty for me. Daniel D, new updates since the last live show. Yeah, we definitely got some updates, and we're getting news as we speak. Ooh, Shabazz Napier's gonna start. Oh shit, they shouldn't have told me that. Shabazz Napier is gonna start over Ish. I know I'm jumping ahead. I think that's the next game anyway, so we'll have to make another adjustment. But we have injuries. Trae Young is still questionable. We'll talk about that. There's still some injuries. Davis Bertans has been ruled in. That's a little bit of news that we got, and I think we're getting to that game anyway, so that kind of works. Wilson Chandler was ruled out for a personal issue, so let's go on. Let's keep it rolling. Appreciate those of you. I see that the likes did go up a little bit. Appreciate those of you who responded. Yeah, it is the next game. The Brooklyn Nets visiting the Washington Wizards. This is a phenomenal game stack type game. It's not the only one. We have a lot of games with high totals. It has a 234 total. The Nets are currently 2.5 point favorites at home. I do believe this game was one of the schedule pluses, right? Yeah, not exactly. I mean, both teams working with a day off. It is a 4-6 for Washington. One thing I forgot to mention about the Philly game is Philly does play tomorrow, so kind of keep that in mind. Philly does play tomorrow. All right, let's get into it. So, starting with the Brooklyn side, I like Caris LeVert and Dinwiddie both. How much of them am I getting? Not as much as I'd like, because there are other spots that just seem kind of good. Like, I mean, they're both kind of competing with guys like DeMar DeRozan, who's like 7K, Devin Booker, guys that are expected to also see boosts, and guys whose prices maybe haven't adjusted yet. But again, I'm willing to overpay for players in game stack scenarios, so I think in game stacks they're fine. I did like raise their minutes well beyond what they normally play, just to kind of reflect, because their projections aren't really catching up to the difference without Kyrie. We know Kyrie's out, and we know that the usage for those two players is massive when Kyrie's out. So we did hear Whistle and Chandler's out. I would imagine that Garrett Temple gets a little bit of extra run for those who may want to try him. Probably good for a guy like Joe Harris. Maybe Taurean Prince even goes up to around 30. This is a matchup where everyone is in play. Washington's one of the best teams in the game to target players against, and then Brooklyn's not that far behind them. So I do think that Caris LeVert and Dinwiddie are my favorites, but I also think that we can take a look and consider guys like DeAndre Jordan or Jared Allen, whichever one you think is going to win that minutes battle. It looks like Jordan's been kind of winning it slowly, and there's been situations where they just said fuck it and gone small. I know that Jared Allen has good history against these guys, but nonetheless, at the end of the day, you got to pay attention to the recent trends, and his minutes have been a little down for the most part. But game stack city here, and it's not too much different going to Washington. I will say this: Shabazz Napier starting. I wonder how that's going to affect Bradley Beal. I'm going to have to raise his minutes now. I'm going to literally do that now. If he's starting, Shabazz played. Hold up. Shabazz played 36 minutes in that game against Milwaukee. That game did go to overtime, but overtime is only 5 minutes, right? So he was already getting like 31 in regulation. The fact that he is starting leads me to believe, and he's been outplaying Ish Smith, even in limited minutes, at least from a fantasy output. Now that he's starting, a little bit of a revenge spot here against Brooklyn. I would assume, like, I'm going to project him for around, we don't have to project much, but I'm going to probably project him somewhere around 28 minutes just to kind of be safe. It's aggressive, but I'm going to assume that if he's starting, that he will also be closing. He closed the last game as well against Milwaukee. He played well. So, as you can see, he becomes a phenomenal option for us now. And if I have to raise him more, I will, because I want to make sure I get some. We know Bertans is playing, so that's going to affect Hachimura. It's going to affect Mo Wagner, all these guys. Had to sneeze right quick. I just barely hit that mute button just in time. I almost sneezed in all y'all's ears. That would have been nasty. It was a wet one, too. We're anticipating Thomas Bryant to return also, so it gets a little crowded here. I'm cool with Bradley Beal. His usage, Paulie D did point out to me earlier today that since the All-Star break, Bradley Beal's usage has kind of been insane. Over his last 3 games, Bradley Beal's usage rates have been 41.9, 46.7, 42.2. Those are his last 3 games. He's been just on a different level. The minutes were down, and that was kind of concerning me, but against Chicago, he did play 39 minutes, which was good to see. Against Milwaukee, he got 41 total. You take away the 5, that's around 36. So they're trending upwards. I'm just curious to see how Shabazz Napier is going to affect Bradley Beal's usage, because Napier can score and he can get other players involved. He can distribute. So it's kind of a wait-and-see approach. But again, I think it's a fine game stack. I'm willing to overpay for players for game stack purposes. And Shabazz just became one of my top plays on the slate, just like that. Boom. I'm going to pull up the cheat sheet and make sure that he reflects that. Man, I be pressing all the wrong buttons all the time, man. Let's do a little refresh action. Shabazz top of our value cheat sheet now. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I want to see. Love it. Love it. All right, let's go on to the next game. We've got the Orlando Magic visiting the Atlanta Hawks. We talked about this earlier. This is a really high total for the Orlando Magic. 226 is the total. It's not like relative to the slate, it's not necessarily all that impressive, but For the Magic, it's high. They're a very, very slow-paced team. It's just, a testament to how fast Atlanta plays and how bad of a defensive team they are. Fournier projects the best for us. I think Vooch has probably the best matchup in this particular situation, though his price is elevated. Aaron Gordon's played phenomenally. It's just hard to reach at that price, man. I mean, I projected his minutes very aggressively, and it's still tough to reach. I'm okay with it for tournaments. If you're doing game stacks again, I'm always willing to overpay if it's a game stack. But as far as one-offs, I think I prefer Vooch and Fournier from this side. And again, like I do like the situation there, the dramatic pace boost. Why that's important for those who don't know, those of you that have been with us for the last couple of years, you understand why pace is important. But those of you who may not, understand that Orlando is expected to get more possessions than usual because they're playing a team that is faster, right? The faster a team plays, the more possessions that they're going to create. So it is a pace-up spot for Orlando, a pretty significant one. And when you factor in pricing, that's when things get a little bit different. When you factor in pricing, I think Fournier has the best price. But again, Vooch, Gordon, I'm willing to overpay for guys that I think in a game stack would, be the nuts. On the Atlanta side, this could change drastically. As of right now, Kevin Huerter on FanDuel, once again, phenomenal. John Collins looks good. Trae Young looks fine on both sides. Trae Young's got flu-like symptoms. Should he miss, Jeff Teague will be a pretty popular, trendy value play. We would assume he starts. He has not played all that well when he started in place of Trae Young, but he's just so cheap on both sides. Min price on FanDuel, $3,300 on DraftKings, that you're going to have to work some in whether you want to or not. He's just too cheap. And if you don't have any and he happens to have that day where, think about it. If he goes for 30 DraftKings points, which really isn't hard to do for a player, it's something he's done several times over his career. That's almost 10x. And if he's chalky, which I think he would be if Trae Young was ruled out, it's going to be hard to overcome that when guys have Luka and Harden together with all these other value plays, and you try to go around it to get cute. So I'm not saying you have to lock him in. There's been scenarios, and you can make a conscious decision to go underweight, but just make sure it's a conscious decision and you're aware of what you're doing. Assuming Trae Young is in, Dwayne Dedmon is an interesting value center. He's got decent history against Vooch in that he's been staying out of foul trouble against Vooch. In the last 3 games, Dedmon has gotten 5 fouls in each of them. So foul trouble has kind of limited his minutes. I do think that they're willing to let him play a little bit more. It's just a matter of can he stay out of foul trouble. So we'll have to take a wait-and-see approach. DeAndre Hunter's been playing really well. A minutes thing, he gets a ton of, one of those guys kind of like Kevin Huerter, just gets a ton of minutes. I'll be interested in all these guys more if Trae Young gets ruled out. So if Trae Young gets ruled out, you'll see the projections for all these guys boost. And, we'll definitely be grabbing a little bit more, forcing some exposure to the Atlanta Hawks. So definitely one of the more important pieces of information that we're waiting for. We're going to go to Minnesota, Miami. We'll be out here. Minnesota, Miami. Pull up the chat. MG, what up? Yeah, Shabazz starting over Ish right quick. Yes, sir, MG. WiseTake Nation OG, man. Been a long-time member. For those who don't know, now you know. We're up to 14 likes. It's cool. I appreciate it, but we can do better than that. I know we can. So we can hit that like button. Just keep smashing it all day if you haven't hit it yet. That's the first thing y'all should do when y'all come in the stream. Sometimes I come to the stream and there's already like 4 or 5 likes, which is great, but it's like a routine thing, right? My responsibility is to deliver you content. Your response. Oh, we just got some news here. Bismack Biyombo will start ahead of Cody Zeller. That's interesting. Here's a fun fact. Anybody else know that Tim Tebow was born in the Philippines? I did not know that. I know it's random as hell, but I'm a Met fan, and that was just something that I heard. But we did get that. Bismack Biyombo will start ahead of Cody Zeller. So I guess we can assess that situation. There we go. Everybody in the chat jumping in on it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what a community is for. Making sure everybody's informed. Everybody has the same information. What you do with the information, that's an individual thing. People can give you suggestions all day, but what you do with that, that's your choice. It's your money. It's your choice. But not having the information, that just kills you. So shout out to you, Nation, for hopping in the chat, being team players, and trying to make sure everybody's aware of the news. Oh, man. Now I got to go back and analyze this Biyombo situation real quick. We originally had, oh, my God, Bismack Biyombo was 3-1. They're just throwing all kinds of value at us today. All kinds of value at us today. It's getting ridiculous. Trae Young is probable. Dwayne Dedmon, questionable. So then So Dwayne Dedmon was questionable. I'm sorry, he was probable. He is now questionable. And Trae Young is evidently probable. So Trae Young's willing to give it a go. Devonte Graham will start Wednesday. I don't think that's a surprise. I think, wow. So Bismack Biyombo is going to start. He's got the potential to 10x. There's no doubt. And the Knicks have been really iffy at best. I'm going to have to lower everybody's minutes around this bitch. Let's just revisit Charlotte and see. Just moving the minutes around a little bit. Elfrid Payton available to play, so we're starting to get a plethora of news. Wayne Ellington available to play. Who gives a damn? I know, but hey. So now if you look at it, Bismack Biyombo, I give him 20 minutes because in reality, realistically, they'll often play PJ Washington at the 5, and this is a situation where they can because the Knicks aren't extremely big. So I don't want to overreact and project him for 30 minutes. I mean, Cody Zeller starts every day and almost never sees 30 minutes. So I do want to give him some projection. Obviously, he's 3,100, so we want him to reflect a little. We'll see where he grades out relative to the rest of our value plays when we run it through our optimizers and everything. All right, let's move it on. Let's keep it moving. We've got the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Miami Heat. Go back there. We have a 237.5 total. I'm sorry, 233.5 total, which for Miami is very high. Lately, targeting against Minnesota has been one of the best, similar to Washington, one of the best spots in DFS. There's always blowout potential. Minnesota, not a very good team. Miami, a pretty good team, and they're getting buckets back. So, where Jimmy Buckets ruled in, this total went from 231 to 233.5. And of course, Miami went from 9.5 point favorites to 11.5 point favorites. Starting with the Minnesota side, I think Nas Reid is an interesting option. Foul trouble is always a thing with him, but Bam, I don't know if Bam is quite aggressive enough on the offensive end to do it to him. Maybe he is. But he projects well. He's a high point per minute player. If he stays out of foul trouble, he should get minutes. We saw the first time he started, he did get the minutes, but after that, has foul issues ever since. Beasley's another one getting monster minutes, taking a ton of shots. I'm cool with him. I'm good with D'Lo as a potential low-owned stud. If this game stays close, I would imagine D'Lo has something to do with it. After that, I'm not terribly excited. It's a pace down spot for these guys. The Miami side is the side that's getting the real pace bump here. And speaking of, man, Jimmy Buckets, I'm cool with Buckets today. My big pace up spot, I know there's revenge narrative. I don't think it really matters a ton. Cat's not playing. Wiggins is gone, and those are the two main culprits he had an issue with. Tibbs is gone, so I don't really think it's about revenge. I think it's about matchup. It's a phenomenal matchup for Buckets. The question, of course, is we've seen Buckets kind of ease back a little bit if the rest of his team is dominating, so that's a concern. But at this point, because of DeMar DeRozan, because of all the value we have, I'm getting the impression that Buckets may go a little under-owned. So I'm interested. I want to make sure to have some. And he projects fairly well when you factor in raw points relative to his price. After that, obviously, Butler coming back is going to affect the rest of these guys. Kendrick Nunn's minutes are no longer solidified. Goran Dragic's minutes are no longer solidified. Derrick Jones Jr. no longer solidified. So there's not a ton here. I mean, for a similar, I'll say it once again. I'm willing to overpay for players in a game stack. Who do I mean by that? I'm talking about Bam Adebayo, who's 9K with Jimmy Buckets back. The matchup is fine against Minnesota. They got no way to stop any kind of big. But obviously, these prices are all reflective of Jimmy Butler being out. And so they're overpriced. But I'm willing to overpay in a situation where I think I'm getting a significant... I'm willing to pay in a potential game stack situation. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know how I messed up that scroll bar, but yeah, that's where I'm at with that. To be clear. We'll do another game, and then we will. I'll pop into the chat. We still got a few left, so I think we're at a decent pace. All right, Memphis. We have a 237.5 total here. This is the highest total on the board, and this is a situation I want to analyze because I wasn't getting as much Memphis or Houston as I thought I would. 237.5 total. Memphis are 11.5 point road underdogs at the moment. In terms of schedule. Both teams working with a day off. So on the Memphis side, we know Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Clark are both out. Because evidently one can't play without the other, I guess. I would assume Josh Jackson is going to start for Memphis. This seems like a pretty good matchup for Josh Jackson as long as he can stay out of foul trouble. We've seen him in the past with the Suns. We know he could be aggressive. We know he actually has a lot of upside. Gorgie Dieng, a potential center option against a team that has no centers. Jonas Valanciunas may be a little too big for this spot. I'm not sure, but we've seen Gorgie Dieng kind of step into that Brandon Clark backup center role, backup center / backup 4 role. Dieng and Josh Jackson both played some 4, so I'm interested in both of those guys. On Josh Jackson, it's 3,500 on FanDuel. That's just ridiculous for a small forward, so I would load up on him over there. Dillon Brooks also very cheap at 41. Dillon Brooks has been his team likes him for his defense. However, he's taken that a little too seriously, and he's gotten into foul trouble quite a bit. He's been terrible lately, but it's not a usage problem. He's taking shots, he's not hitting shots, and he's getting into foul trouble, which is limiting his minutes. But on FanDuel, he's underpriced. That's just the truth. On DraftKings, he's probably underpriced. As you can see, a lot of these guys project well, and for some reason, I just wasn't getting a ton of them. I do think that Josh Jackson is somebody that I may want to give a boost to. I want to believe that they'll play him 30 minutes. It's hard for me to really envision that he actually gets a full 30 and his price is now elevated. I guess that's really the issue, is that there are other guys at this point who seem to project better. Obviously, John Morant is certainly in play. On a side note, Shake Milton will remain in the starting lineup. But obviously, John Morant is an interesting tournament option going up against Houston. We've seen a lot of guards step it up when they play these guys. John Morant himself has actually played really well against Houston. On November 4th, he went for 39 DraftKings points in 28 minutes. On January 14th, he went for 48.75 DraftKings points in 37 minutes. So the minutes have been inconsistent. The price is at a weird place. Maybe we want to give him a little more just to kind of show up a little bit, but we've seen guards play well against these guys and kind of step up their game a little bit. We're just going to have to over project him just a little if we want him to really start popping. On FanDuel at 6-1, it's really not bad. I did just raise his minutes. We'll see if that is enough to get him on our radar on DraftKings. Probably not on DraftKings, but again, on FanDuel, phenomenal. The whole Memphis team looks good on FanDuel. Josh Jackson, I'd love to do it, but what it comes down to is we have a lot of other interesting value plays. Let me see if Josh Jackson has played any significant minutes ever in his career against this team. He has. So 37 minutes against Houston, he went for 35. This is last season. 28 against Houston, went for 22. 31 against Houston, went for 35. So it comes down to minutes. Brandon Clark only played 3, and Josh Jackson still only ended up with 26 minutes. That game was a complete disaster blowout, and this could be the same type of situation, but it is what it is. Let me check one more source for Josh Jackson's. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to project him any more than that, but I do want some. Maybe I'll give him a little half a minute or something. That may help. DeAnthony Melton is another one that they like the defense of. They said that they like Dillon Brooks and Melton both for defensive purposes. This is a spot where you're going to need somebody who can guard Westbrook and Harden. So maybe they do get a little bit more run here. It's possible. But Josh Jackson on FanDuel, I wouldn't even think twice about it at all. On the Houston side, we know Eric Gordon is ruled out. So I boosted Robert Covington's minutes. He's not exactly projecting through the roof based off of his price increase, but he's had a pretty solid role. And Memphis is also a pretty fast team. Danuel House is the cheap one. He kind of comes into play. He's always been a minutes play. Danuel House has been my problem with him. So when he's cheap, I'm cool with it. When his price starts to rise up, I get a little on the fence. And his price is kind of right in the middle of that point right now. I think that looking at Russell Westbrook and James Harden, I would lean towards Harden slightly, as I always have. Harden has sliced his team up. Now, I don't know. Obviously, Westbrook being there is going to affect Harden's usage in general. But this is a team that has never really been able to contain a guy. Not that anybody really can, but this is a team that's always kind of had their hands full with Harden. Earlier this season, in those 2 meetings with, that Harden had 37 minutes, 73 DraftKings points, 39, 61 DraftKings points. So he's going to be my preference. Scoring dominant guards have sliced up Memphis all season. We've seen Harden just draw a ton of fouls in general, especially against Memphis. They just seem to always. There was a game last year where he shot 27 free throws against these guys. So last year's last year, this year's this year. But I do have interest in Harden for sure in this one. And I think the ancillary players are fine. Game stacks are fine. If you want to do a game stack and play Harden and Westbrook together, I don't necessarily love it, but I'm not totally against it. Just make sure you bring back with Memphis players because you're going to need Memphis to keep it close if they're both going to have an opportunity to ceiling. But I do I do prefer James Harden. All right, so we're getting conflicting reports of Mike Connolly. I've seen one source, initially they said that he was going to play off the bench, and then I saw he was starting again, and somebody else, and Ingles is going to play off the bench. And evidently there's another beat writer who's now saying that he is going to play off the bench. So we'll have to wait. We'll take a wait and see approach with that one when we get to that point. Last I heard, he was supposed to start, so we'll have to see. What do we got here? Next up, the Dallas Mavericks visiting the San Antonio Spurs. Where you at, Dallas? Don't be no bitch. We have a 232.5 total. Like I said, a lot of high totals today. Dallas opened up -5.5. They're down to -4.5, despite the fact that San Antonio is going to be missing LaMarcus Aldridge, who is one of their best players. Starting with the Dallas side, Luka projecting phenomenally. I plan on having a lot of Luka. Once again, I got screwed last time loading up on him. It wasn't really his fault. His team just destroyed the other team, and he only got like 25 minutes because of it. But I'm expecting this game to be close, and so does Vegas. So I'm willing to ride with Luka. I think he's underpriced on both sides for sure. I'm not terribly interested in anyone else except for Luka. Maybe Porzingis. I actually don't mind Porzingis either in this scenario. Going up against the Spurs, who give up a ton of points in the paint and are missing LaMarcus Aldridge. Not that that really matters, but so I'm okay with Porzingis. It may be tough to reach with his current projection. Let me see. Hey, he hasn't particularly done well, but I do think there's some room in his minutes for us to give him a little half a minute boost. Take him to 34. Oh, shit. All right. Let's see what happens. I gave Luka like a quarter boost. I do like Luka quite a bit. And if the game stays close, I think he will get around 34. So it helped Porzingis a little bit, not as much as I would have liked, but I do love Luka today. I'm playing Luka a ton today for sure. On the San Antonio side of the ball, there's a little bit more to be interested in. LaMarcus Aldridge being out is pretty big for this team. Jakob Poeltl should be the chalk of the day. I plan on being overweight. Dallas is a team that does have guys like Porzingis. They do have big players. Maxi Kleber, even Boban. So I would assume that they are going to give Poeltl at least the 25 minutes we have him projected for. Obviously, he projects through the roof based off his price. FanDuel is a little tougher to commit to, being that you only get one center on DraftKings because of multiple position eligibility in the utility spot. It's not as much of a sacrifice to play him, and he's 3-2 over there, which is just almost min price. So I'm going to be loading up on Poeltl. He'll be extremely popular. If he busts and you fade him, you have a very, very good chance of doing well today. But if he does not bust and you are underweight or you fade him, it's going to be very, very tough for you to make money. So that's a decision you have to make. As of right now, I plan on playing him pretty good amount. Trey Lyles, I'm good with too. I'm not going to play as much as Poeltl, but I will be playing some Trey Lyles as well. He's very cheap on both sides at power forward. DeMar DeRozan, I'm playing a ton today. His usage without LMA has been phenomenal. I think he's underpriced as is. I understand he hasn't played particularly well lately, but I think with the LaMarcus Aldridge out, they're just going to need him. That's just the truth of the matter. So yeah, I'll be playing a ton of them. That's just where I'm at. I'll have a ton of them. DeJounte Murray is another one that I'm trying to work in. Again, his minutes are kind of tough to project. They seem reluctant to play him mega minutes all the time, but lately they've been pushing the envelope with him a little bit, and he's responded. He's played well. I think that they prefer his defense, so maybe he's the one that's guarding Luka. That could be bad for foul trouble purposes, but I'm into DeJounte Murray. I think that there's some room. I know I've got his minutes a little high at the moment, but again, that's kind of reflective of the usage increase. Remember, he should also see a usage increase with LaMarcus Aldridge out. A little tougher to roll with him now in terms of the point guards with Shabazz Napier, now opened up. But the San Antonio side, definitely, there's going to be some value you can work in if you see fit. But Poeltl and DeRozan are the main two that I'll be loading up on. For sure. We've got the Los Angeles Clippers visiting the Phoenix Suns. We've got a 232 total. It's actually down from 233. The Clippers opened up -5.5. They're up to -7. Starting with the Clippers side, we know Marcus Morris projects well regularly. Of course, the problem is always that His role on this team is different. We know with the Knicks, his role was a lot better. His role was a lot higher. His new role with the Clippers, the minutes are fine, but he's not seeing as many. His usage is just a whole lot lower. Montrezl Harrell, I think, is highly in play. 5,800 on DraftKings, 61 on FanDuel. The minutes, again, kind of tough to gauge, but we know when he's on the court, he's a high per minute producer. It's a phenomenal matchup. Phoenix is terrible against centers, have been all season, and they will continue to be. So I'm actually cool with Montrezl Harrell, especially if you're considering playing Nas Reid. It's like Harrell is on DraftKings another $100, so you're at that point. Kawhi Leonard, I think will be low owned, and I'm interested, but I usually prefer to load up. I feel more comfortable loading up on those guys when they're in different situations. When there's a player out. I think Paul George is actually interesting at his pricing. 7,800 on FanDuel, 8K on DraftKings. Not sure how many minutes. I'm not really sure what to expect in terms of minutes. He's been nursing a hamstring injury, but he played in the last game. It was such a bad blowout against Memphis that nobody got full run. So it's honestly really hard to gauge at this point. Give me 1 second. Moving on, we've got Pat Beverly is also an interesting value play if you need it. We have value everywhere, so I don't know if you need it at the point guard position necessarily, but it's there if you need it. At 3,900, he's another one. He's been dealing with a groin injury, so just with everybody healthy, it's kind of hard to pinpoint. Is basically where I'm at. But Harrell, I do have. I feel decent about. On the Suns, another team they're missing Kelly Oubre, who plays like 39 to 40 minutes a game and has a pretty good amount of usage. Wow, Bam Adebayo is now a game time decision, so things are getting crazy over here. We'll have a lot of news to react to. That last hour is going to be pretty crucial for news. Bam Adebayo likely a game time decision. What does that mean? He's likely a game time decision. If you don't have a decision on him now, we're pretty damn close to game time. I would say he is a game time decision, wouldn't you? Anyway. On the Sun side, Ricky Rubio's been playing really well. If Pat Bev plays, the matchup's going to be a little tougher, but I do anticipate his usage to increase. Dario Saric looks like a phenomenal value play. 3,700 on FanDuel, 3,200 on DraftKings. We already know he's expected to start. He has the potential to like end up playing 20 minutes and get you like a 19, but he does project well. It's hard to pass up. I mean, if we projected him for 24 minutes, which is probably conservative. I think it's really 23.5. It's probably conservative. And he still projects for 7.01x. And that's on like a 22.42 raw score output. So I do like Saric. I like DeAndre Ayton a lot. Like these are situations where if the game doesn't stay close, I can get myself in trouble. But just running projections, just trying to predict the minutes. Devin Booker, I was probably a little light on his minutes. And now Oubre's out, so the usage is going to be up. There's a good chance they get smoked. There's no doubt. There's a good chance that they get smoked. But if they don't, a lot of these Suns players have the potential to just break the slate. DeAndre Ayton, 8,100, 8,600. Dario Saric, very cheap. Ricky Rubio on both sides. With Oubre out, the usage is going to be up. Devin Booker, 8,1 and 7,9. Usage is going to be up. So I do like the Suns quite a bit. I think that they're a team we don't want to ignore. Again, the blowout can just ruin it. Like as of right now, our projections are giving us a pretty good amount of Booker and DeAndre Ayton. And Dario Saric. So if this game gets ugly quick, that's not going to be good for us. But if the game does happen to stay close, I expect them all to hit value and then some. Mikal Bridges, I don't mind. We have stronger value elsewhere, I think, but I don't mind it on 4-4 on DraftKings, a site where you get extra points, 3-pointers. He does take a lot of threes, but it is what it is, man. I'll have a lot of Saric. I do like DeAndre Ayton quite a bit at center. I like Booker. I like Rubio. So similarly to the Spurs situation where one player that plays big minutes is out, we just have a lot of openings. The issue, of course, one player I forgot to mention is Cam Johnson. And I anticipate him also seeing a lot of minutes. I think we'll see him rotate in and out with Dario Saric and maybe Mikal Bridges. So I think he'll play the 3 and the 4, kind of rotating all around. Because, again, there's a lot of minutes that are out. And, it is what it is. So with that said, let's go ahead and roll to the next game. I'm going to pop in it. We only got one more game, so I'll pop in the chat in a second here. All right, let's go on to this last game. We're about 10 minutes before we take our break. Dwayne Dedmon officially ruled out. Okay, so on this break, we got a few things we have to adjust and change. I'll make the updates. We'll discuss them on part 2. But Dwayne Dedmon has officially been ruled out, which is going to open up more value. I think that's good for Collins. I think he'll play more 5 for sure. So keep that in mind. All right, let's go on to the final game here. Man, I got a lot to update. You know, this is how it is. I'm glad. I'm glad we're getting the news. The Boston Celtics visiting the Utah Jazz. We have a 218 total, not nearly as exciting as the last 3 or 4 games we just discussed. The Utah Jazz currently 5-point favorites at home. It's a really tough part in the schedule for Boston. It's a back end of a back-to-back and a 4-6 on the road and in Utah with a little bit of elevation. So, tough spot for them. 1 day of rest for Utah in the midst of a 4-6 for them as well. Utah has been funky, man. They've been struggling this year. They don't look good. They don't look like a good team at all. I don't care what I don't even know what their record is. I don't give a damn. They just don't look like a good team. I've seen them lose in some of the worst potential. You know how many times they've caught teams? They played Houston in that 6 and 8 stretch on a back-to-back in Utah. They lost. They played Denver with like 7 players on a 5 and 8 or a 6 and 8 on a back-to-back and lost in Utah. So I'm not really too concerned about it. Kemba Walker is doubtful. He hasn't officially been ruled out. He's actually doubtful. We have him out in our projections. I don't expect him to play. With that said, Gordon Hayward revenge spot. I think he's interesting to me on both sides for tournaments. A little overpriced on DraftKings, but I do think he's interesting. He only played 31 minutes last night. Jason Tatum's been balling out. His price continues to be high, but he's just been destroying it, just kind of pushing the barriers. Jaylen Brown showed up well for us. He was one of the few players that I had a lot of that did well for me yesterday, and I'm interested a little bit today. Not interested against the Utah. The game in general doesn't seem all that great, but I do think that a lot of the Boston guys are going to go a little lower owned. Gordon Hayward, revenge. He played for Utah for quite a while. He knows how to play here. He's comfortable, so I think Gordon Hayward is actually kind of interesting for those of you narrative backers, but I don't see myself getting a ton of Boston relative to some of the other spots on the slate. I'll just acknowledge that their ownership should be pretty low. Let me just make some notes here. On the Utah side, so we got to confirm Mike Conley. I'm hearing conflicting reports. First, they said he was going to come off the bench and Royce O'Neal was going to start. Then they said he's going to start over Ingles. And then they said, I saw someone else mention that Conley may come off the bench. So we'll have to wait for a confirmed lineup. It's a shame because if Conley does start, he's been playing 34 minutes in these games where he's starting and fully healthy. And if that's the case, I mean, $5K on DraftKings is probably too cheap for him. So I would be interested in Conley. Also, that affects Donovan Mitchell. When Conley's out, we expect Mitchell's usage to go up. If Conley's out, Mitchell will be starting at point guard. So there's some things to pay attention to here. This is a team that, like Clarkson, sets up really well against. I don't know how many minutes he gets, so it's hard to take a chance. His price is kind of elevated for a bench player, but we know that scoring, like jump shooting guards have done well against Boston. As good as a defensive team as they are, you can't help it if if a player shoots well. It's just not much you can do if he's just throwing it up and making it. So there is some interesting stuff here. I think Rudy Gobert, only 8,100, is very interesting. I like Aiden a little bit more, but Boston also very bad against bigs. And Gobert's been playing monster minutes all season. So not as aggressive as some of the other centers out there, but certainly an option. And that's going to do it for the game by game. Pop into the chat. See what questions we have. I appreciate those of you who have hit the like button. It is rising quite a bit. We need more. So if you guys can continue to hit the like button, I would greatly appreciate that. I think relative to how many people are watching, 22 likes is low. And y'all know that. I'm not saying nothing y'all don't know. That's low. Y'all could do a lot better than that. I don't know if y'all can hear my boy Patch is snoring right now. He's snoring away. Doing this thing. Man, he's shaking right now. Hold on 1 second. And here we are, back. He's good. I tried to wake him up a little bit. He started shaking. You know, puppies have nightmares and shit. It's sad. But anyway, keep hitting that like button. Let's see. Our boy Nick said, Nick, is Elf playing tonight? I believe so. Yes, he's active. Our boy Todd, man, not an NBA guy, a longtime Nation member and WiseTake Nation OG as well. Big on the MLB. You'll see him a lot in the chats in the MLB. Also an NHL DFS enthusiast. We have a really good NHL team, a small niche group, and they do really well. Shout out to Todd, man, popping in the YouTube chat for NBA. Love it, man. Love it. I'm ready, man. We haven't interacted in a minute because you don't do basketball, but I'm ready. Baseball season, I'm ready for you, bro. Bam, not questionable, yeah. Smashing says Zeller will be active, but unlikely to play. So Biyombo could play 25 to 28 minutes tonight. Is that the report that Zeller is unlikely to play? Because that's interesting. That would make us like Biyombo a little bit more for sure. Bruno Fernando will start for Dwayne Dedmon. So we'll have to make those adjustments. I still think that I haven't seen anything. I'm not doubting you, but I haven't seen anything about Zeller. I mean, don't get me wrong. For him to not start out of nowhere, that is kind of makes you wonder. So maybe there's a beat reporter report that you saw or something. If you could hook us up and let us know, Smashing, why you believe he's not playing. Because also Willie Hernangomez may end up getting some minutes in a revenge spot, and he's a really high pumping minute player as well. MG says, can you call the man by his real name? His real name is Gorgeous Dong. Yes, it is. That's true. That's true. I can't deny that. Bam, now questionable ankle. FanDuel power forward paying up or paying down. I mean, you could. I think that I'd be paying down for at least one of them because we have so many down there. But I do think there's guys like Julius Randle over there, John Collins, especially now that I think Collins is going to play more center. There's more options. So on FanDuel, I would say like a 1-1 at this point where I'm at. Anyway, guys, we're going to take a little break. We're going to get ready for part 2. You don't got to go anywhere. We're going to play some background music, get Paulie D on the horn, go over some of his takes and lead you up into lock. I'm going to make some adjustments to the projections, so it may take me 5 to 10 minutes to get this fully set up. Again, you don't got to go anywhere. We're going to be right here. Part 2 of the stream. So just stick around, hang out with the background music. Try not to drive yourself crazy. And MG says Labs has Zeller getting no minutes. Okay, so smashing. Obviously, there was something you saw that was there. So we'll go back and take a look. And Willie getting 15, I think I saw. Okay, so yeah, okay. We'll go back and take a look. I'm going to assess all this information, make sure we edit our projections, and I'll see if Paulie heard anything. Shout out to, again, community aspect, right? That's a big part of it. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Again, 23 likes relative to how many people are watching. The ratio don't seem right to me. Hit the like button. We'll be right back with part 2 of the show. Don't go nowhere. Copy the link for Cody Zeller. Yeah, that's what I'm asking you to do. If you could copy the link, bro. I feel you, though. I feel you. We're going to make some adjustments. All right, Nation. We'll be right back in a little bit. Hang tight.
What we do here is go back.
What up, nation? We are back with part 2 of the NBA Wise stream. Got the projections updated as of now. We're still waiting on a lot of injury news, such as Bam Adebayo, et cetera, any late-breaking things that we're not aware of. So be ready. Rock with us all the way up until lock. That's what we're here for. We are now joined by the GOAT, the true OG. You know him as Paulie D. You can catch his core player article over at WiseTake.com if you are a WiseTake Nation subscriber. Paulie, what's happening?
What up, baby?
Wild.
Wild,
bro. Just real wild. It was already kind of looking like that. Like me and you were just saying to me, like shame on DraftKings and FanDuel. They knew LaMarcus Aldridge was out yesterday, and they didn't do anything to adjust the price. And like it's one thing, like the Bismack Biyombo, that was unexpected, right? How are they supposed to know that a guy that's barely playing is going to be star? But like the portal, all that, it's ridiculous. But anyway, needless to say, we have a lot of news out there already. We have some on the way that we're expecting. What are some of like the I guess the bigger impacts to you as far as news go?
Well, Bismack at 3-1, getting the start, probably just going to play the Cody Zeller role. Hard not to like that. I think it, gives PJ Washington a little bit of a boost. Maybe you get interested in Hernan Gomez, although I don't think you need to go that deep on this slate. The Bam news could be big. Although Butler's back, you kind of turned me on to the fact that Minnesota's like the nut worst against centers lately. And it's very true. They the most points in the paint since the cat injury and are like the worst rebounding team. It's just, bigs are doing the dirty to them. So I was interested in Bam, but if he were to get ruled out, I'd be really interested in like Kelly O or, maybe even like Chris Silva. Looks like Trae Young's going to play, had my eye on that situation. What else? And then, obviously everybody on the Spurs just, looks very enticing.
I like what you said. Like I was talking to you on the transition and we're talking about, I was telling you like all this crazy ass news, this crazy slate. And like you'd mentioned that you actually like a lot of it because you feel like it may pull people off of like the Acapulcos and the Spurs in general. And I really didn't think of it that way, but I think you're right. And if that's the case, like I know for me personally, I still like Podol. I'm still rocking with Podol. And if they're going to lower the ownership, a guy that was initially projected for like 70% ownership, if they even lower him to 50%, that's going to give us a big edge if we're still going to rock overweight. Talk to me about where you are with Podol and the Spurs, and talk to me about like how significant of an impact is it going to have on his ownership with all these other things opening up, especially if Bam gets ruled out?
Yeah, I mean, total at 3-2, like the research just screams to play him. I mean, we've got a pretty significant sample, and they just don't have anybody else. Like they've got some guys from the G who haven't seen any minutes, but Total and Trey Lyles, those are only like significant size guys they have. And Trey Lyles really isn't that big, and really neither's Totals though. You're just like locked into significant minutes, significant usage against a team that's bad against bigs. You know, Total's a very good point per minute player. He has been his entire career. It's just been a challenge of getting him minutes. But when you do get minutes with him, like you play that. And most of the news that's come out has been center based, like Tristan Thompson with no Drummond, Bismack Biyombo, the Atlanta center's out. Bam might be out. So I do think the industry is going to come off of Poeltl a little bit, and I'm thrilled by that because I want as much of him as I can get.
Yeah, I 100% agree. What about the Suns situation? That was the other one from last night. So we had the Spurs information yesterday. We had the Suns information. So when we woke up today, these were like the chalky spots. And I think they still will be chalky, but maybe not as heavily owned as they were going to be. Because like you said, we have a lot of things opening up. We know Malik Monk today got suspended for doing some sort of thing, probably smoking weed. I mean, that's probably what it was, right? I don't anticipate him, unless he was really doing dirty with some blow, and that's how he was getting out there, chucking all those threes, getting all that play. He's like, bro, I'm getting minutes now. I gotta go. So but I think it's probably weed. Anyway, not that it's relevant, but obviously there's what's his name, Martin, one of the twins, right? Like he's played pretty well yesterday. He was the one Charlotte guy that hit value yesterday. So he's in another avenue, in another situation. To do well again. But talk to me about Dario Saric, the Sun situation. How interested are you in the Sun situation relative to the rest of the value spots?
Okay, so first on just brain for what'd you talk about before Saric?
I was talking about the Suns in general, like saying that we had the Spurs
No.
them. Oh, you talking about the Malik Monk shit?
Malik Monk, Hornets, right? So they got absolutely smoked yesterday, right? Like, I don't know if Cody Martin is this like elite play, unless we think they get smoked again. It's the Knicks. I do think the Knicks win. They've been playing pretty well, but I don't know if it's the same blowout, and I don't know if it is the same blowout, if the minutes like the coach kind of like gave up on the starters yesterday, pulled them after like 2 minutes in the third quarter and went with the second unit and then brought them back in for a touch, but not really. Like, I kind of like the starters on Charlotte more than like the value plays outside of Bismack because he's a starter now. Phoenix, kind of similar, like, Cam Johnson's all right. Mikal Bridges makes some sense, but it's really just like, Booker and Rubio and Ayton, anyone that starts I have interest in because, like I think the way those situations like become like optimal is if those games stay close and those starters kind of sealing out. I don't know if those are the optimal value plays, the guys coming off the bench, like your Cody Martins or Cam Johnson. Dario Saric starting, most likely, like that I can get behind. But, I'm not so sure about the second unit guys on both those situations. You're muted.
I think Martin is fine, but like I'm saying, I'm with you. I think Martin's okay, but he's not nearly like one of my favorites. Like yesterday, we didn't have a lot of those, and we were looking for ways to get stars. And today's different. We have a plethora of them. But Saric is one that like because a position thing, right? Like we have a ton of center. He's a small forward, power forward. So it's a little, but we've also seen him in situations like this before, where when he used to start. Now, granted, Oubre being out is also a usage thing. But we've seen situations in the past where Saric has started, played like 23 minutes, and just put up a 19, which maybe that's good enough, but maybe it's not. We have a lot of value today. So between him and then you got Cam Johnson on the same team, there are little things, and we may see a little more open up. But as of right now, I am looking at a pretty substantial amount. Put it this way, Saric or Lyles or both? Like, do you like them both? Do you like one more than the other?
If I was building one team, neither would be on it. But if I had to choose between the two, I would say Lyles.
Lyles. I can feel you. Feel you on that. No
What do
diggity.
you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sarge for me a little bit, just because Sarge, like when we saw times when he played for Philly where he was really aggressive, so we know he has it in him, you know. But I think,
But that was when Embiid was out.
correct. That was when he was asked to. So I have a little bit of a bias, but yeah, I'm with you. I'm looking at right now. I'm getting a lot of both of them. And I already have, like, Podol's the one I have the most of, and I'm comfortable with that. But I am getting a lot of Lyles and him, and I want some. I'm just thinking that maybe I have a little bit too much. Thabo Cephalosha's ruled out. That's the news we were all waiting for, right? With that said, talk to me about. We'll do the spend ups, mid tier, and the value. Paulie, talk to me about your favorite spend ups on the slate today.
Yeah, so the research kind of just screamed to play Brad Beal. It's against Brooklyn, who's actually been playing very slow lately. I guess part of that's DeAndre Jordan's increase in minutes and, Kyrie being away from the team. But, this is Washington. This is going to be a hyper fast game. And, Beal's got the highest usage since the All-Star break. I think it's partially because of all the guys that are not playing anymore for them or got traded away. And, the shot volume is just tremendous. I think the game stays close because neither team's really that good. And he's significantly cheaper than some of the other studs on the slate. Then I really like Embiid. He's had, the third highest usage since the All-Star break. No surprise there with Simmons out. Just really was impressed with him the other day when he finally got aggressive. Then you add that Drummond is ruled out, so there's just less size to prevent him. Sure, I'm a little concerned about the game getting out of hand, but it is on the road. And Cleveland, they actually have some decent players now, so the spread's only 7. So I really like Embiid. And then DeAndre Ayton. The guy's just been absolutely crushing. And he gets a nut spot against the Clippers, who are top 5 in points allowed in the paint. Ayton's been a double-double machine, really flirting with 2020s on the regular. And he can get perennials, blocks, steals. He's just too cheap at 8-1. He really should be 9-5. And, I'm hopeful that game stays close. And I think he gets a usage increase with no Oubre. So just those are the 3 I like the most. There's others that are certainly interesting. Really like Luka Doncic. Really like Trae Young. Harden and Westbrook are absolutely fine as well. But Beal, the guys I'm going to have the most of is Beal, Embiid, Ayton, and then probably Doncic. Those are the 4 I'm kind of planning on going to war with.
Holla. What about the mid tier, man? I know with all this stars and scrubs, we're getting pushed towards the stars and scrubs, but I know there's some mid tier out there like DeMar DeRozan, Booker, all these guys. Talk to me about the mid tier player.
So yeah, DeMar DeRozan's probably the first one to touch at $7K. Another huge sample size. To just kind of depend on, similar to CJ McCollum, not as big as that, but been a ton of games without LMA over the last 2 years, and he has a 1.4 point per minute. His price happens to be the lowest it's been in a long time against a pretty fast playing opponent. Just hard to see him fail. Also, you mentioned Devin Booker 7-9 against the Clippers. I think that game stays close, and I think Booker just gets a huge usage increase in terms of shot attempts. Rubio seems to be playing well again, so I just think as a whole the team will play better when Rubio plays better. And with a close game, you're going to see Booker taking every shot down the stretch. He could certainly go for a 60 burger today. DeJounte Murray, kid's just been awesome. He started the year with all the usage, then they took it away from him, and now he's slowly gotten it back. He also sees a big usage increase. Nut spot against Dallas. They've been bad against point guards all year. Luka doesn't play a ton of D. And, we both kind of think that game stays close. Gorgie Jang is technically a mid-tier play, against a team with no size. Locked into minutes. He played 30 last game, and there's a chance he starts today, or I don't really care. I know he's going to get the minutes. They got blown out last time. He got minutes that way. I think even in a close game, especially against Houston, he should see similar or more minutes like him. Nas Reid kind of busted last game, but the shot volume was there. He just shot very poorly, and even after getting into foul trouble in the first half, he almost bounced back in the second half, got some blowout runs, so he's kind of game flow proof. If Bam gets ruled out, it's a phenomenal spot. But even with Bam there, I think that game plays fast, stays close, and he's got big upside at his price. Ricky Rubio at 6'9", price feels high, but he's been higher than that. When he's playing well with Oubre off, makes him quite appealing. Devonte Graham, I just have like a feeling that he's going to bounce back with no Monk. He should kind of return to the usage monster on the team. There was times where he would take 20-plus shots, a lot of those threes. And, I think after getting their teeth kicked in last night, like the team will kind of come out motivated. And I think Graham, off a day of rest, with his price lower than it's been in a while against LD. I mean, the Knicks have been getting murdered by point guards. So, yesterday it was Graham or Rozier. Monk or Rozier. They both kind of dudded. I would go right back to both of those, and particularly really like Graham. I do like Tristan Thompson, above 5. Evan Fournier kind of popped in my research a little bit. And, I think like James Enos being in that first unit has like allowed Fournier, Gordon, and Vooch to, get a little bit more usage. And like against Atlanta, it's just like a solid spot for Fournier. Kevin Love is very, very cheap. No Drummond. Power forwards actually do very well against Philly. They're at home. I think, they kind of come to play. Miles Bridges, another guy from Charlotte with Monk's usage floating around. He does kind of play on the second unit to start the second half, and should have it all to himself without Monk there. And just been really impressed with him and take the opponent. And you got a good situation. Then like Joval, right? Like his minutes have been way down, but I just don't see how they don't play him. Houston's been like bottom 3 points in the paint. Memphis is desperate for a win. I think they come out and keep this game close. Like Houston's been shooting through the roof. That has to come back down to earth a little bit. I expect a close, very fast game there. And, Joval, it's just a matter of minutes. And I don't see how they don't give him to him, and how when he's on the court, he should do very well. So to add him to the list of many in the mid-tier. It's a very deep mid-tier.
Yeah, it is. On a slate where the stars and scrubs approach seems to be pretty optimal. Talk to me about the value plays. I know Podol's probably amongst the top of your list, but talk to me about him, Bismack. Where do you rank? There's a lot of it out there, and there's not just the 3K shit, right? We got Shabazz Napier. We've got a lot. So talk to me about some of your favorites.
Podol, Shabazz, Josh Jackson, Biyombo are like my top 4. Podol, Biyombo, we've already kind of touched on. Shabazz moving into the starting lineup for the Wizards. Still no Thomas Bryant. You have like Bonga in the starting lineup, and like Mahinmi, like a lot of usage to go around. He balled out the other day. Slim little revenge narrative. Optimal opponent. Just really, really good spot. Underpriced for the role he's likely to have today. And then Josh Jackson, like, the kid can put up fantasy production. He could start. It's either going to be him or Dieng. Played almost 30 minutes the other day. Most of that wasn't even in blowout run. Like, he didn't get till the end of the game. They kind of pulled him a little earlier, which, annoyed me because I had him and I needed him to keep going. But it stuck with me that, like, all right, they're almost like looking at him as like a core player now. And I actually think he's going to start, not Dieng. I think Dieng will back up Joval. So, against Houston, there's the same reason we loved DSJ the other day. Like, these guys who play really well in transition. Jackson can kind of, he can put the ball in the hoop and rebound and get steals and blocks. I think this is a phenomenal spot. I think he's earned the minutes and likely to see an increase from the last game. And I don't think many people are really looking at him. So he's like a value play I'm like looking to get a little different on. I usually use like 5K as the barrier, but like you got Tristan Thompson right there. You've got a very cheap, who else is right there? Josh Richardson at 5'2". Al Horford, back in the starting lineup against a terrible opponent. PJ Washington, Cody Zeller's not there. He should play some 5 and probably see, 30 plus minutes. Then you got your Sarics, your Trey Lyles, your Patty Mills, your guys like that. Royce O'Neal's going to start today. He's very cheap. I don't think you really need to go that deep, but Dillon Brooks is under 5K. He just hasn't shot well in a long time. That could turn around on a dime. Plus, Houston's just a great opponent for him to just kind of get an increase in usage, touches, put together a good game. Like I said, Memphis is desperate for a win. So, I expect them to play very tough today. And then if Bam gets ruled out, Kelly Olynyk and Derrick Jones Jr. will become, elite value options as well.
Yep, no doubt. Trae Young officially ruled in, officially available to play. Ooh, this is irrelevant to today's slate, but LeBron James is out for tomorrow. Holla, Anthony Davis Day.
I think they play the
who?
I think they play the Warriors the Thursday night game.
I see. Not a bad day to rest him then. It looks like the Knicks are going to start Elfrid Payton, R.J. Barrett. Mo Harkless going to remain starting at the 3. Julius Randle and Taj Gibson as far as the updates go. All right. So, one thing, you were talking about Memphis, and that's the highest total on the board. They have 2 players out at one specific position, and yet I was having a hard time getting to any. So as you were talking, I was like raising up Josh Jackson's projection because I think he would be my favorite. Number one, looking at the positions, the power forward position I'm not in love with. Like even in the mid tier, I like the center guys, Nas Reid, Montrezl Harrell. These are guys that like aren't power forward anymore though. So looking at power forward, like I was looking at it like, all right, well I guess Dario Saric, I got Trey Lyles. I don't love what I have above that, right? Like you can go above your head, try John Collins all the way at the top. Like there's guys you can attempt, but it really made me think about how valuable on DraftKings, Josh Jackson is only small forward on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, how valuable Josh Jackson could be. Like if you're reluctant to play Trey Lyles a lot or, the other guy a lot, like Josh Jackson is definitely a little barrier for you. He's not quite at the bottom, but he's got the upside. Like he's a guy that can easily go for 35, 36, maybe even more if he gets the minutes. And this is a situation where he very well could get the minutes against a team that should favor him. Josh Jackson, a guy that usually racks up steals and peripherals like that. In a very fast-paced game. So I think like when you were kind of going over the different mid-tier and value options, it kind of like made me think like, all right, well, he's talking about Memphis, and he's right. All these guys projected well for Memphis. Why am I not getting any Memphis? And I think Josh Jackson is like not going to fix everything. I still want more of the Memphis guys, but I think he's probably like he's growing on me more and more as it goes on. So I do like what you said about that.
Yeah, like. I like that game as a stack for the most part. I think if John Morant balls out, it's because the game's close. So then one of the bigs contributes, and then probably one of Brooks, Kyle Anderson, or Josh Jackson, right? And then you kind of want one of the studs or both studs from Houston, any of their peripheral pieces. Or it's a blowout, right? And the studs from Houston still do really well. And then Josh Jackson probably does really well, right? Like the second unit run or wherever he kind of falls. But he's going to get minutes in we're getting smoked kind of game. Like that's where he thrives. And, positional scarcity is certainly a situation where there's no one you really want to spend up for. And I don't really like Saric and Lyles all that much. I mean, they have potential, but I think they're the kind of plays that get beat by mid-tier plays just raw point wise. you see a lot.
And I completely agree with that. I just can't locate the mid-tier guy that I really truly believe will do damage enough, except for him. Like he to me, and he's not even mid-tier. He's still value. Like, let's be real. He's 4,500. He's still on certain slates. We're ready to get on our knees, break out the knee pads for that kind of value. But and it's interesting because he's projecting to be really low owned because we have all the other guys. So
yeah, I mean, the mid-tier guys that I would say, like, you could consider there is Kevin Love, Al Horford, Davis Bertans, Miles Bridges, and Rui Hachimura.
They're fine, and like there are players, right? Like there's Robert Covington with no Eric Gordon. There's Gordon Hayward, right? He's a little more expensive, but a revenge spot for him going back to Utah, where he played several years. So there's definitely options, but none of them do I feel great about based off their prices. I look at their prices, I don't feel great about it. You know what I mean? But there are options. But point being, I think Josh Jackson is like slowly creeping up my radar more and more as we talk about this. He's like trickling his ass up there.
Do you like Tat in a revenge spot?
Who?
Neck Tat. James Johnson.
That's interesting. That didn't even occur to me then. I don't like what they've been doing with his minutes, but he's obviously a high point per minute player when he wants to be. That is kind of interesting. And he got dogged at the end there.
He's gonna play 22 to 30, I would say.
Right, but that's a pretty fucking big. That's a pretty broad range of outcomes. Like, you know what I'm saying? We're talking about 8-minute difference. That's like a full quarter for rotationally for some of these guys. Yeah. That is interesting, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in love with that.
No, but it's interesting. It is. It's just like you mentioned. It's like, it's definitely like one of those like you pointed out, and you're like, that could be fun. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm gonna raise Josh Jackson just a little more. Let me see. Let's go to Josh Nation. If you have questions, get them in there. We're gonna start with the usual Y stream questions first, and then we'll move over to YouTube. Do dirties. I'm just trying to upload some projections while we do it. The projections are pretty updated. We got about 24 minutes to lock. We got plenty of time, so if we get any news, we should be able to make the changes necessary. But I did raise Josh Jackson a little bit. I actually went ahead and gave Net Tat. I don't think it's going to help much because his minutes were so low to begin with, and his minutes in general haven't been great. But situationally, you got to approach things situationally sometimes. And if there was a situation for them to give a guy extra run because maybe he was not even about narrative, but because he was playing well, it may be when he has a reason to play a little better because he's playing against a team that he couldn't find any time to play for. He started off the season, he was out of shape. Remember that whole thing? They kind of dogged him, said he was out of shape and fat and all this shit. And so it's interesting. I didn't even occur to me that like, and I'm usually look for that. Not that like we've definitely when we first started doing this, we were all about the narratives with like cash and all that shit. And we've kind of like, not that we've drifted away completely, but we're more like, all right, it's more so about the pricing and matchups and all that kind of stuff. But every once in a while, man, you get one of these and you're just like, oh shit. Like, this is a guy that played well when he did play for them and just couldn't stay on the court. And then they fucking dogged his ass and called him fat and shit. Shit, I then shit. You know what I mean? Shit. 76ers will start Shake Melton, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, and Embiid. So Horford will start alongside Embiid. Holla if you hear me. All right, let me pull up the Ystream chat real quick and see if we have anything popping. LD, what's happening, LD? What's up, bro? Always good to see LD. Long time OG of the WiseTake Nation. Oh, Wig 3 said that an hour ago. I just didn't see it. Neck Tat Revenge. Wig 3, shout out to Wig 3. T. Kamen says Monk could have been high on crack. Based off the way he played yesterday, maybe. That's funny. Kamen, Trey Lyles or Josh Jackson? I'm assuming for you it's Josh Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he wanted to. Oh, actually, he meant, do we like both? Yeah.
Yeah, I do like
Kamen's
both.
a FanDuel
I
player.
like Jackson.
So, like, to me, it's like liking Lyles more than Jackson on DraftKings is understandable because there's almost there's like what $600-700 difference. On FanDuel, Josh Jackson is like 35 or 3,700. It's not even close to me. I'm kind with both of them, but on FanDuel it's not close. It's Josh Jackson for show over there. Neil Dog 17, Randall or Collins for FanDuel?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah, this is a nut spot for Randall too. On DraftKings, he was just kind of overpriced, but Collins is going to play more center now. Randall's got a nut matchup.
What's their price?
I'll tell you right now, son. All right, so let me see. I know Collins projected well for us on FanDuel. Julius Randle is 7.6, which is a phenomenal price. Collins we have projected at almost 6x over there. He's 8K.
Yeah, I would say Collins, but it's not like a huge gap. If I had to choose that close in pricing, Collins has much more like block steal upside than Randall actually has for FanDuel scoring. So I'm just gonna go Collins, but I'm all right with either one of them.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let me pop over to the. I think that was it for the Y stream. Oh no, I'm sorry, I missed one more. T-Cam and top 3 studs on FanDuel. For the studs, it doesn't change too much for me. FanDuel, I like Embiid on both sides, like you said, but FanDuel, I definitely see the merit. Like especially because you only get one center, man. Like on DraftKings, like you can play Embiid and Podol together. On FanDuel, people are gonna have to pick. You're gonna punt that position with some solid value, or you're gonna go grab a stud that can do dirties today. So, you tell me though, who are your top 3 studs on FanDuel?
It doesn't really change much. I would just say that I'd probably bump Embiid ahead of Beal because of the steal block upside that exists on FanDuel with the extra points and the lack of triple double bonuses and 3-point additions. So it's the same 3: Embiid, Beal, and Ayton. But I'd probably move Embiid into the top spot on FanDuel for myself.
Sure enough. My own personal question to you: where are you at with Jimmy buckets today? Is it it's okay unless Bam gets rolled out, or do you like it regardless?
I do like him regardless. They're coming off a tough loss. He's rested. He's got a little narrative. I'm sure they just, want to continue to win. And, even if Bam plays, he definitely, hurt himself a little bit at the end of that game, rolled his ankle or whatever it was. And, I'm sure Jimmy wants to just, lead the team to victory. He's, nice price on both sides, especially on FanDuel. He does have big steal upside against Minnesota, who's playing the second fastest in the league since in the last 4 or 5 games, which is when all the changes happened for them. Only team playing faster is Washington.
Fair enough. All right, let me pull up the YouTube chat and we'll get dirty with those guys. Interesting. All right, let me roll up here right quick. Sarge to play. We talked about that. Arizona Drama. What's up? Daniel Lawler says Embiid plays home lately. The whole team plays better at home lately. That is a good point. Guys, if you haven't hit that like button already, please hit that like button. Fernando and Collins. Fernando got the start at center. Here's a question.
I'm not really interested in Fernando.
Yeah, me either. You're bypassing Podol at that point. You're bypassing Biyombo. I agree. There's just 2, and not to mention the mid-tier centers and the top centers, stud centers. LeBron is out. Yes, that is big. Nick asks best small forward picks. So specify for us which site you're referring to. I'm assuming you're talking about FanDuel because DraftKings, there's so many ways around all that shit that doesn't seem like an issue. But Josh Jackson would be one of them for me. I can tell you if it's FanDuel, Josh Jackson is one of them. He's 3,700 over there. But specify for us a little bit. MG says toilet paper a potential pivot from Jackson. And Wilson Chandler is ruled out. So maybe toilet paper does crack 30 minutes. What are your thoughts on Taurean Prince?
Sure. You got Harris, you got now all of a sudden both centers are playing. Um, you know, you don't have to get much to be over the field, and like he can certainly do well in this spot. It's Washington, but it's just like variance would be hitting you hard if you were dead right on that. You know what I mean? There's no like real indication why he should smash, and really like LeVert and Shabazz. I mean, not Shabazz. Motherfucking point guard, the other point guard on the Nets. I've taken all
Dinwiddie.
Dinwiddie. Yeah.
Dinwiddie. All right, let's see. Great stream. Shout out to you, Anthony. Appreciate it. Mr. Papa Giorgio says pot. That's what we are. I think so. Napier or Shake? Arizona Dream.
Napier.
Yeah, Napier for me. Not even close. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with that one. Definitely prefer Napier, Arizona Drama. Mr. Papa Giorgio, Podol or Biyombo on DK? I think both of us lean towards Podol.
Yeah, I don't mind playing them both. If you have to.
Put it this way. I'm looking at around like 60 to 70 of Podol and about 30 to 40 of Biyombo. So I'm going to play them both at a pretty decent ownership. I just prefer Podol a little bit more, personally. Any Burks narrative against the Cavs?
Nah.
Yeah, I'm not all that. I think we just have so much out there. It's just tough for me to land on them. I don't hate it. It's just there's just so much out there. It's tough for me to land here. Our boy Jew says, I'm building one lineup on FanDuel. Is Jonas Valanciunas a good contrarian idea if you're working with one lineup today?
Okay, so sure, he's a good contrarian idea. I wouldn't play him alone. Like, I would probably want Ja, Harden, or Russ in that lineup. Like, if Joe Bell goes for 60 today, that game went down to the wire, and multiple pieces did really well. Because that's the two fastest teams facing each other on the whole slate. So Joe Val's doing well. The only way that happens is if the game's very close and he sees the ceiling in minutes. So I wouldn't just have Joe Val in a lineup by himself.
Yeah, I agree. Joe Val to me is more of a not even 150 lineups, but just a few. Like you have a few to work with, a few to spare. Maybe you say you're building 3 teams and you want to take one and game stack the shit out of that Memphis Houston game. That's a situation where I'm like, yeah, let's ride with Joe Val with limited teams. Otherwise, if I have one, it's a little risky. I agree. Todd, our boy Todd, OG Todd from the WiseTake Nation. It looks like he's going to play some NBA today. He says 8K in the forward spot on DraftKings. Are we cool with Karis LeVert?
Very cool, but I think he's like 7'6". So
yeah, you're gonna have some money left over, yeah, if you do that.
But I'm very cool with Karis LeVert. He actually stood out pretty significantly in my research, and it's the nut opponent.
I agree. I also like some Karis LeVert. I know Todd's talking about DraftKings, but Karis LeVert's price on FanDuel is a joke. He's like 6-something over there, bro, against Washington. Like, suck on my nuts. Shit.
Karis LeVert or Tobias Harris?
LeVert. I'm a little biased. Like, I got a thing for LeVert, but I would go LeVert. I just like that game better. I mean, Washington, Brooklyn, I just love that game just seems so game stackable. Like,
Stack City. Stack City.
Stack City, chick. Stack City, chick. You know what they do. Where are we at this point? Bruno Fernando is getting the start. Yeah. Bruno Fernando is definitely starting for the Hawks. Arizona Drama. It's not. We're not trying to knock your Bruno idea. We just prefer the other guys. Bruno typically. It's rare to see Bruno play like 30 minutes. Podol could play 30. Bismack Biyombo could not even 30. Let's say 28. They could play 28. I think that we're more likely to see John Collins play a lot of center today at some point. Hunter move down to the 4, and then they can even slide in what's his name? Cam Reddish at the 3. So like that's what I expect to see for majority of the game. It may not start that way, but I expect to see it end that way, if that makes sense. But we're not. We do know he's starting and all that. We just like the other guys a little bit better. Okay, so Juice is saying he's got Harden, Brooks, and Josh Jackson in that FanDuel lineup where he was talking about Joe Val. So he's basically choosing a game stack of that game. I don't mind it as much at that point, right?
Yeah, I mean, like that those three guys, like, it could fit for either flow, though. Like, say Houston blows them out, that could still work. If it's close, it could work. Joe Val, the game's got to be close. So maybe, add another piece, too. Just kind of get overweight on that whole thing. Try to get Westbrook in there. It's FanDuel. It should be no problem. Or a Covington or something like that.
Easy. Where am I? Pull it up. Okay. GPP cash line for 9 games, 310. Yeah, it depends. If the chalk does well, it's going to be massive. If the chalk busts, it'll be a little bit lower. Juwan Holt says, yo, what up? Arizona Drama, I'm taking Beal now for second guard. Who would y'all take, Butler, DeRozan, or LeVert?
If Bam's out, Butler. If not, LeVert.
For me, it's DeRozan.
I don't even know, man. It might be DeRozan.
Yeah, for me, it's DeRozan.
This is a FanDuel question, though.
Yeah. And he's got Beal already.
LeVert and buckets have like a lot of steal upside. They could have 4 or 5 steal games,
True
right?
that.
DeRozan really don't as much, So,
but the usage for DeRozan is going to be so massive.
Yeah, I mean, but the usage on the other two aren't far off what they've been doing.
To be honest with you, and like I know that like I don't it's not that I dislike Beal today. I'm fine. Like 40% usage rates over his last 3 games, I'm totally cool with it. But I think like being that Beal is also a guy that is not like a super big a super big steal type, peripheral type. I would prefer to go DeRozan with one of LeVert or Butler in that scenario on FanDuel. DraftKings, you got 3-point bonuses. If he hits that double-double, you get a potential bonus. Turnovers, you're not penalized as much. It's the same reason that I never like Harden as much on FanDuel. No, I'm not classifying Beal in the same category because let's be real, Beal is pretty scoring dependent. Like he's not a guy that you can really lock in for double-doubles and shit, But
you want to know the last time he played Brooklyn, how many blocks and steals he had?
Who, Beal? How many did he end up with?
6.
Total, like combined?
3 each, yeah.
I mean, I get it, but I don't want to say, he got this against that team last time, so he's going to get it again. And when you look at his normal every day, he's averaging like 3 of those, which is, don't get me wrong, that's like 9 points on FanDuel. That's solid. But also factor in turnovers. 9 turnovers, 7 turnovers, 6 turnovers, 4 turnovers. You're losing a point for all these as well over there. Whereas on DraftKings, you're losing half a point. You know what I mean? Not to mention, here's another thing. Here's another thing I'll say about Beal. Shabazz Napier is now starting. That's going to affect Beal's usage when he's on the court. Number 2, Beal played 39 minutes against Chicago. That was great. He got 41 against Milwaukee. 5 of that is overtime. In regulation, he only played 36. Before those games, he played 34 minutes against Cleveland in a close game, 34 against the Knicks, and 34 against Chicago. That's my main, and I'm talking as a person who is playing about 15% Beal on DraftKings, so it's not like I'm not playing Beal. But I do have those other guys, LeVert, Butler, and DeRozan, all rank higher for me than Beal. That's basically where I'm at. It's more about the minutes and Shabazz that really kind of got me on that track, though. It looks like I'm seeing reports that Bam is going to start. So I guess Bam is ruled in. The Wolves starting lineup is out. Is D'Lo, Beasley, Okogie, Hernan Gomez, Reid. Bam is going to start. So Bam's in. Bam Adebayo will start. Nets will start Dinwiddie, LeVert, Harris, Prince, Allen. Nothing really changing there. All right, let's keep with the questions. 8 minutes to lock, Nation. It's almost time for us to start punching in our teams. Almost time. I mean, the time is probably now, right? Shit. All right, then shit, right? Shit. I'm just saying, man. Shit. I'll answer questions in a second. Let me just make sure I get one of these fucking things up. Because I don't want to be fucked. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to be fucked? Not this guy. Oh, where are you, mother sucker? Get rid of you. Find my vote, all the teams do. Did it again, son of a bitch. Alright, where am I? How did I get? Yo, this dog is a champ, bro. He's been with me. This is almost 2 hours he's been in this room with me. Motherfucker's straight sleeping. Puppy love, man. I mean, this is puppy, so sleep is life for him, but You should have seen him on. Yo, he gave me a hard time on the early look, bro. I was on an early look show. Like, he was good. Like, I took him out. He was doing his thing. Looked like he was gonna go to sleep. As soon as I went live, he starts biting on my desk. He goes on the other side of the room where I can't reach him and starts sniffing at all this shit he's not supposed to be into. He has like, I brought 6 toys in here. He picks the one that squeaks and starts honk honk. You know what I'm saying? It was like that. I was just like, what the hell? All right. With that said, let me just upload these teams and we'll take it from there. I'll go back to the questions.
All right, I got a question. Do you have any interest in 3,300 Rudy Gay?
Man, I was tempted, bro. I really was. But we've seen this situation happen already when DeRozan's missed, when LMA's missed, and Pop just doesn't seem to really like him much. But I was fucking tempted, man. I mean, you mean to tell if Lyles and Gay were both going to get 20, and you knew for sure they were both going to get 20, and you had to play one, not even close, it's Gay. Like, not even close, it's Rudy Gay. But there's a realistic scenario, even with LMA out, that he only gets 15 minutes. Like, it's a possibility. I'm not saying it's probable. I think he does get 18, 19, 20. But I don't know what it is, bro. I understand he's older and he's not as good as he used to be, but I don't understand why you can't find time to. I don't know what it is about Pop that, and he knows something we don't. But I always, anytime we're in this situation, I look at Gay and I'm just like, oh, this is easy. And I've just gotten burned too many times. But you know what? It was the same situation with DSJ, right? And he finally came through. I mean, he started, so that helps. But I don't know. Where are you at with him?
A little more interested than you. Yeah. Like,
I get it.
He's
I totally
fairly
get it.
close with Lyles to me. I mean, it's DeJounte Murray, DeRozan, and Podol, like, way miles ahead of anyone else, right? But then, like, Patty Mills, Gay, and Lyles are all, like, viable. You know what I mean? So,
right. Oh, I feel you.
Pop is
interesting
the way he,
Oh, interesting. So
divvies out the minutes and changes on a dime.
That's a friendly word. Interesting.
It's like I almost feel like Gay might be on, like, the rise in terms of, like, his minutes and playing time. You know what I mean?
Let's take a look at it. Maybe he is. Well, he played 18 against OKC. Keep in mind that LMA was there. The game was a blowout. It was 103 to 131. He had a 29% usage rate. I'm assuming some of that came in garbage time because his usage rate, like, skyrocketed. He finished with 27 DraftKings points, and that's 18 minutes with LMA playing. The problem is, before that, his minutes have gone 15, 17, 17. He did have a 22 against Sacramento, a team he used to play for. 14, 16, 15. There was a 6. 22. I think there was 2 games where he played 22 in a row, and I think one of those games, at least one of either DeRozan or LMA missed. So I do think that if there, like, I think he does get on the higher end of, say you gave us outcomes 18 to 23. I think today he's more likely to see 23. Right? I mean, that's an obvious one. I'm fine with it, man. I'm fine. It's just the problem, I think, for me is that his floor is too low. If there's a scenario where he does only get the 15, 16 minutes, like, he could get you a 10, and that would just suck balls. But you know what? So can Saric. So could Cam Johnson. So could Trey Lyles.
Yeah. I would almost flip that and say, what is his ceiling? And,
look
like,
at it
how
from that
likely is he to
perspective.
hit?
Right, yeah. What do you think his ceiling is?
Probably like 36, 37 points.
Yeah, I agree. How many minutes do you think he'd have to play to get that? Like 23 would be the minimum?
Probably more, yeah. Probably like 26 to 28 to get there.
Right. Back to the questions. Mr. Papa Giorgio, I like both Podol and Biyombo, but I have to have Embiid on tonight's slate. He's going to feast tonight. Agreed. I think he's in a phenomenal spot. I know Paulie loves Embiid today as well, so that's the beauty of, that's why we preach to do MME and build as many teams as you can. Even if you can't do a full 150 or a full 100, do as many as you can afford to do. If it means dropping down to a cheaper contest so you can get more teams, do it. Give yourself an opportunity. On FanDuel, Jaylen Brown and Jared Allen or Collins and House? The new House.
The Jared Allen, Jaylen Brown one.
Nick Law, what about Jason Tatum for FanDuel GPPs?
It's a really tough situation, but he's been incredible. It's fine, but I mean, I would be betting on Utah today.
Yeah, it is a tough situation. I mean, Utah is the one team that's lost every time they've been in this situation, but I still can't go against the process, and the process tells me that it's a tough spot for Boston. Across the country, no Kemba, foreign 4-6 back-to-back elevation in Utah. I'm with you on that, Paulie. I got Luka. That's why I'm worried about taking DeRozan on the other side. I wouldn't be worried about that. If anything, that should encourage you to take DeRozan on the other side. That's correlation right there. You know what I mean? And they're not even guarding each other, so it's not like you have to worry about foul trouble. They shouldn't be guarding each other at all. We should, if anything, DeJounte Murray should be spending a lot of time guarding them. Right? Like DeRozan ain't gonna. I don't see DeRozan. He's never really been known as a premier defender or anything, right? Smashing says 100% Podal. Do dirties, drop sevens, explain yourself later. Arizona Dream is everyone off of Butler now? I'm not off of him. I'm just not going to increase. I got about 20% Butler and 20% Levert. I have more Booker and I have a ton of DeRozan, which is why I'm a little lower. But if Bam was out, I was going to raise my Butler up more. I'm just going to leave him where he is now at like 20%. What about you with Butler?
I have no idea how much Butler I got. Let me check.
We are 1 minute away from lock, by the way, Nation. 1 minute away from lock.
I have 11%. You know, the shooting guard is just so loaded for me.
It is very loaded.
It's hard for me to make room for him.
It's very loaded. Last question. We are at lock. Anthony, it's not even a question. Our boy Anthony says, I remember Gabe being 5K earlier this season. Yeah, bro, last year he was a real part of the rotation. He was like a real actual piece. And if this was last year, we'd be 100% Rudy Gay right now. If he was 3-3 in the situation. Yeah. No doubt. All right, Nation, that's going to do it. If you haven't hit the like button, please do it on your way out. We got 33 likes, but we had more than that in here. A lot more than that in here. So if we can hit those like buttons, man, it really helps us out. Allows us to continue to do the free content. We're going to get up out of here. We got a guest joining us tomorrow. Make sure you come and stay tuned to see who it is. It's a 4-game slate, so we'll have some time to bullshit. We have a guest coming on the second part of the Wise stream. When Paulie comes on, he'll be on with another guest. We'll have a little 3-man action, have some fun. But in the meantime, good luck, Nation. Paulie, good luck to you as well. Always a pleasure doing these breakdowns with you. For myself, for Paulie D, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.
Yeah.